Thank you for coming out this afternoon. I hope this will be informative for all of us and good information exchange. And obviously, after I've delivered my message here, there'll be opportunity for questions afterwards. Okay. I'm going to start a little bit before the last press release that I issued this morning at 9. So beginning at Saturday morning about 5 a.m., we learned that we had a main break on the 48-inch line that runs through Fort Hood. As some of you know, that's a serious issue for us, and it's a known cause for water disruption for Fort Hood and all of our customer entities, which include Killeen and Coppers Cove and Harker Heights and Belton, Nolanville, and some of the rural areas. So we were able to get a commitment from a contractor to help us with that main repair pretty early on. And by about 6 a.m. Sunday morning, the line had been repaired and was being put back in service. And for a 48-inch main repair, that's pretty effective work there. We were very fortunate to have equipment and people in close proximity. But because it was such a large line and out of service, the treatment plant was in recovery mode. We were not up to full capacity, and it takes several hours to fill a line of that size and get the other storages in good shape. So we were almost to a point to be back to good shape when we lost power at the Belton water plant. The Belton water plant is our largest plant by far. It's 90 million gallons a day capacity and serves the all but 4 or 5 MGD of our daily needs. Now we have the Stillhouse water plant, which makes up that difference. And that 5% difference the Stillhouse plant makes is a big difference and helped us dodge a little bit of pain with this outage that we went through here. So from that, I'm going to start reading from this statement a little bit, so I try not to confuse any details or facts, and then I'll open it up for questions. So as I was saying, at approximately 1:10 p.m. yesterday afternoon, all electrical power was lost at the Belton water treatment plant. Power was restored to the plant at approximately 4:30 p.m. yesterday. This plant provides water service to the City of Belton, City of Nolanville, City of Harker Heights, City of Killeen, City of Coppers Cove, Fort Hood Military Reservation, and 439 Water Supply Corporation. The power loss caused subsequent loss of water flow and pressure to all of the entities served by WCID 1. There are two major consumer impacts caused by the loss of pressure and flow. The first is what's foremost on most people's mind is the boil water notice. The loss of pressure and flow for a sustained period can create an opportunity for bacteriological contamination. However, the TCEQ has affirmed that each entity is responsible for making the determination of whether a boil water advisory should be in effect. We are still, WCID 1 are still of the opinion that a boil water advisory is the most safe and cautious way forward. And most all of our entities are pursuing the boil water advisory, and all of our entities are pursuing sample collection and testing. We have, well, I'm getting ahead there. Let me get back to the message here. To find out if you are under a boil water advisory, please check with your retail water supplier. If you live within the city limits of Belton, Coppers Cove, Harker Heights, or Killeen, you would need to contact officials from those cities. If you live in Nolanville, you would contact Bell County WCID 3. If you reside in the unincorporated area between Belton and Nolanville, you would contact 439 Water Supply Corporation. All right, so the first item of impact is the boil water notice. The second item here is water use restrictions. At this time, we're still asking all customers to conserve as much water as possible until noon tomorrow. Currently, the plant is producing at a rate of 47 million gallons per day. Our typical usage for mid-May is about 35 million gallons per day. So we're slowly gaining ground on our storage levels, but at a very modest rate, and we should be gaining at a pretty respectable rate given the flow. And this evening, our goal is to be moving 60 million gallons per day production rate. We're bringing another plant facility online. It's filling as we speak. And once that facility is fully online, then we will ramp up flow to 60 million gallons a day. And that will help us catch up quicker. The customer demand for water will dictate how long storages remain at below normal levels. The more that is conserved now, the quicker we can ease the water restrictions and commence sample collection to lift the boil water advisory. With 47 million gallons per day, as I mentioned, we should be seeing a little more gain than we are. For questions regarding your water conservation requirements or questions about the boil order, please contact officials from your city or retail water supplier. We've asked each of our customers to try and reach a 50% reduction. So each city and entity has their own water conservation plans and drought contingency plans, and there's always different ways to achieve reduction. Examples that we listed in our request for curtailed usage was car washes and laundromats. There's odd even watering. There's all kinds of other measures that cities take with their plans. We don't and can't dictate what those measures are, but we were looking for 50% reduction in usage. So current activities, we are collecting samples, or they've already been collected with WCID 1, and they will be delivered to the Waco Environmental Lab for testing. Disinfectant residuals also being monitored in our delivery system. And as I mentioned, another treatment train is being filled and will be in service soon, allowing our flow to increase to about 60 million gallons per day. And with that, I would be glad to try to answer any questions.
Did you guys completely run out of stored water, or just partially?
In some storages, yes. Most of them partially. But all were at a very, very minimal level.
If you were to give an overall percentage of the water you lost of all storage tanks, what would that be?
90%.
90, so 90% of the water is lost?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did power go out exactly?
That's a question for Encore. A jumper, that's probably not a technical term. What I was told by my Encore representative is a jumper had burned up or shorted out, and it created a loss of 500 to 600 people in our vicinity. So we were one of the 500 to 600 people that were without power for a few hours yesterday.
Has that ever happened before?
Not here, I don't believe. We've had partial outages where a portion of the plant was affected. But this was the first time, I believe, on record that the whole plant was offline.
Okay. Is there, given the grid issues that we've had in previous years, things like this, I guess, do you guys not have a backup power source?
We do not.
Okay.
We do not. We're pursuing that at this time. We've hired L5 Group to help us with to facilitate requests for proposals. We've gone through that process, and we have a vendor that we want to negotiate a contract with, and we're currently working on that.
So did you guys start looking at that right away when this happened then?
No, this was been in place since Winter Storm Uri.
Oh, you've been trying to get backup power since the storm?
Yes. Yeah. I think May of that year is when we talked about it at the board level and agreed to hire 5 to get moving, and it's been going since then. Yeah.
Is there an estimated time when you're going to get the backup power generator?
Not a hard time. We're still dealing with some regulations. So Senate Bill 3, I don't know if you're familiar with Senate Bill 3, but It was in response to what happened with Winter Storm Uri and the fact that a lot of power companies weren't properly winterized. Well, Senate Bill 3 didn't affect natural gas providers directly. And when you're talking about 10 megawatts of standby generation, you're talking primarily about natural gas power generators. So the challenge that we're pressed with right now is working with the gas supplier to categorize us as non-interruptible. And if we're categorized as interruptible, as their current rules show, then in a Uri type event, we would be cut off, which would defeat the whole purpose. So we're working with that as we speak.
Do you need to get that to get the backup power generator?
Yes. Yeah, it's all part of the same package. Yep.
The Stillhouse water plant wasn't affected during this power outage, then why does South Killeen still have to boil water?
Well, most all of Killeen gets their water from the Belton plant. Yes.
Is TCEQ involved? Are they helping in this process like they were last time?
I know that they're aware, and I've had some conversations with TCEQ, just trying to affirm we're taking the right steps and that we're doing the right thing. And so to that extent, they have been supportive and in the loop. Yes, ma'am.
And how can we prevent this from happening in the future?
Standby generation is the biggest thing that we could have here to help this. On the 48-inch leak, too, it's important that I know we've had engineering going on for a few months now to replace about a 5,000-foot section of the 48-inch where all but one or two of the leaks have occurred over the years. And this most recent leak is in that section that we hope to replace soon. Yeah.
I just want to confirm the 48-inch leak was not directly related to what happened Sunday afternoon.
No, ma'am.
And that was on Fort Hood then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So speaking of that 48-inch leak as well, does this kind of expedite that process of trying to, get that line replaced, get everything fixed up in that sense?
Well, the short answer is no, because we were already pushing that timeline, and as soon as we get the engineering complete, I'm going to have support from the board and the customers to move forward with that. So I would say we're moving about as fast as we can move on that. Yes, sir.
And also, I'm curious as to how it is that you're able to, monitor the water levels as well. Was whenever you asked for people to, cease the usage, did you see that working at all? Were people complying?
Yeah, it's hard to quantify per customer, but what the operators see is the storage is holding longer than normal. So we can see it's not real quantitative, but you can tell. I mean, we were before the 48 leak, we were probably around 35 to 37 MGD because of the heat coming on and the drought that we're in, even though we had that rain last week. But flow was already inching up pretty good. And without the customer's support and reduction, we would have lost the storages much quicker. I mean, in hindsight, had we known the power was going to be gone for 3 hours, we probably would have taken more time on the 48 repair because it ended up being for naught, I guess. But
That repair is complete though?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
And you mentioned that you want people to conserve water as much as possible until noon tomorrow. Is that when
Yes.
you're anticipating things being back to normal?
Well, we're increasing production as quick as we can, and so we're doing what we can to expedite that. But the more reduction that we see right now on behalf of the users, the quicker our system will be at a healthy level where we can ease the restrictions. Right now, a lot of the water, rather than going into storage and refilling storage, is being used about as fast as we put it in the storages, if that makes sense.
Is that an issue where you need to have water in storage in case another event was to occur, or is this an issue that you need to have better pressure?
No, we need to have power all the time. Then we don't have this issue.
For the amount of water that you have right now, like, do we have a boil water notice because we would continue to have one because we don't have enough pressure in those lines because we need more water, or do we just need more storage?
We need more water in the storages we have. Yeah.
Okay, so pressure isn't an issue right now?
No,
Okay.
not on our side. I don't think it is on any of the customer sides, but I don't know that for a fact. Yeah.
I know a lot of the folks who we've been talking to are kind of, writing in what have you, or just talking again about, the issue that we had in October with another citywide boil notice. Could you kind of compare and contrast the difference from then to now, if you can, shortly?
Well, this had everything to do with a lack of supply. The issue from October had to do with the nitrification, which had to do with the quality side of it. So TCEQ has two primary drivers that invoke a boil water advisory. One has to do with lack of disinfectant residual. So nitrification causes a lack of disinfectant residual. And then the other driver they have is loss of pressure in the system. And with this power outage for about 3 hours or so in May, we lost all pressure in our system.
How much, if you look at, again, total storage, what level of total storage do you need to get to release the boil water notice?
Yeah, that's a question I can't answer with any definitive because it varies from customer to customer. I'll use Killeen, for example. They have more than 20 million gallons that we do in storage tanks that we deliver water to. So they're in one situation, whereas a smaller customer may only have 1 million gallon tank. So one answer doesn't fit all, I guess is my answer to that.
Okay. So as soon as the local tank for that municipality starts to fill up.
As soon as their tanks are in good shape and holding where we're not struggling just to keep it above the low level, then we've reached that point of comfort where we can start easing restrictions.
And then are we at, when you go take these samples from each of these places, has that already started happening?
Yes.
And so how long does it take to get those back? Or do you have to do more than one sample?
Yeah, so for a bacteriological test, the turnaround time from the lab, the time it's delivered to the lab is 24 hours. And so we're driving down samples or driving up samples to Waco, probably there now, I'm not sure of the timing, but it was midday today. So midday tomorrow, 24 hours, we'll have phone results as to any issues. So if any of those samples come back with a coliform positive, then that necessitates further sampling, and also any customers downstream of that sample location. It creates sampling on their part in coordination with TCEQ to clear their storages.
So best case scenario is that the boil notice can be lifted by midday tomorrow?
Yes. Yes. For our portion, each entity has to do their own sample collection within their system and submit them. I haven't heard back from all the entities, but the ones I have talked to are sampling today about the same time we were.
And those individual tanks should be filled enough by midday tomorrow
Yes.
as well?
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Okay.
Anything else?
I had one question from a resident. Should they be concerned about showering in this water?
No, not in my opinion at all. It's just for ingestion. I also had a question from a caller today that I hadn't heard before, but I don't know the answer about Eyewash, emergency Eyewash stations. And my only thought on that is if you had an exposure to something that would necessitate an Eyewash, if it were me, I would use Eyewash. But
Thank
And
you.
I guess just to be clear, there's not a particular one thing that you would know is in the water. It's just, is it because it lost pressure, there's a possibility of bacteria forming, and we don't know if that happened or not?
correct.
Okay.
It's precautionary. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us one more time in a complete sentence that the earliest would be, the earliest this could be lifted would be midday tomorrow?
Yeah. So if all tests go well, then the earliest that the boil water advisory from our standpoint, as far as the water supplier could be lifted, would be tomorrow midday when we get our sample results back.
Just one question is, once the boil notice is lifted, what do residents have to do in order to make sure that they have clean water, as in to like flush out their pipes?
Once the boil notice is lifted, there is nothing the residents have to do. The sample testing confirms that the water was safe for consumption. This is precautionary, so there's not been any contaminants or anything from a biological or any other nature that we're aware of. It's just the possibility when you lose pressure exists for contamination.
And is there also an indication from any of the customers that, cities or entities like that are kind of setting up water stations, give out to people that you know of or have heard about?
I have not heard for this. No, I have not. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming.